drummers, and welcome to another video by me, Old Man Drummer, here to help you learn how to play your basic drum beats, work your way around the drum set, and just learn to be a better drummer. So this video we're going to expand off of our last video, which was learning the basic drum beat and fills around the drum kit. On this video, unfortunately, we're not going to be doing anything around the drum kit. We're just going to be working on hi-hat, snare, and bass. It is so critical that a drummer learn basic rock beats, 4/4 beats, and how to stay in time on the hi-hat, bass, and snare before you start getting all crazy trying to learn how drum fills. You can do both at the same time, but I would say most drummers start learning drum beats and then incorporating fills, because if you're just doing a whole bunch of crazy fills around the drums, you're not going to make it back to the beat on time, and it's just going to be difficult to learn. So that's just my opinion. You can learn both at the same time if you like, but this video is only going to be dealing with hi-hat, snare, and bass, and specifically the snare drum. We're going to keep the hi-hat going on eighth notes. The bass drum is going to be going on 1 and 3. Occasionally I might throw another beat in there, but we're going to be creating independence on the snare drum. How are we going to do this? One, I'm going to show you how to play it. But two, what I have to do is I finally have to break out my whiteboard and show you how drum music is written. Some people are visual learners. Some people are learn just by audio. So if you don't care about the symbology or reading drum music, or it somewhat scares you, it shouldn't, by the way. You can just fast forward through me talking on the scroll bar on the bottom on YouTube and just wait for my hands to start moving, and then you can play those drum beats. But I highly encourage you to watch what I'm about to do on the board. It's only going to take a second, so check it out. What I've already written down here, as you can see, is you're going to have 3 lines, 3 rows, and it's going to be the hi-hat on top, which is the HH, and you're going to have eighth notes up here. The eighth notes you're going to see on top that I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we know from the videos we've already watched that we count eighth notes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and the small plus sign that I have there is the and that you're going to be saying. Jumping down to this line, the snare drum, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building everything based off the basic rock beat that was in the last video, which is the snare drum is going to be on 2 and 4, and the bass drum is going to be on 1 and 3. So just so you know how it looks, because it's going to help you understand how to say it and how to play it. Like I always say, if you can say it, you can play it. So this is just another tool to help you do that. So very easy. All you got to do is be able to count to 4. So let's mark the snare drum on 2 and 4 and the bass drum on 1 and 3. So here's the 2. We'll drop right down here to snare, 2, and then here's 4. There's the snare drum, and then the bass is on 1 and 3. So here's the 1. We'll just come straight down, do a 1, and then here's 3 right here. And just to get back into playing, because you don't want to hear me talk the whole time, let's go ahead and play that basic drum beat. Now, if you just jumped into this video without watching the previous video and that just confused the hell out of you, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the metronome, which is going to say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and while I'm playing it, so then you can look at what I wrote and understand it better. This is going to be at 60 beats per minute, nice and slow.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2
So there you go, that's the basic drum beat. Now let's move on, because that was in the last video. If you're confused or still struggling and don't understand, please go back and watch my previous videos. They lead up to everything right now. So here's the fun part about drumming. You can do whatever you want. So this video is going to be on snare. The next video is going to be on bass. So let's start working some extra notes on the snare drum. So let's just get creative and drop a snare note. I know where I'm going to drop it. I know where it's going to sound cool. But let's just say we were randomly throwing darts at a board and we landed on the and of 2 and just the and of 2. Let's just keep that note right there. Now, not to confuse anybody, but the way that would probably look on sheet music is since they're next to each other and they're eighth notes, they'd be connected. But don't worry about that right now. So now we have 2 snare notes next to each other, so we have to play 1 and 2 and. So the snare drum is going to be on 2 and what they say the and of 2. So let's see how that sounds. We'll do it on the metronome. Metronome's going to count for me 60 beats per minute.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2.
All right, getting kind of crazy there, right? Threw in another snare note. And if we can play on the and of 2 right here, that means we could also add another snare beat on the and of 4, which is right here. So, let's go ahead and do that. The and of 2 and the and of 4.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 1 and 3 and 4 1 and 3 and 4 1 and 2 and 3 and.
All right, so are you still with me? Are you still hanging out? Are you still playing along? Let's go ahead and I'm going to play that beat without the metronome. And with all the beats I'm going to teach you in this video, you can play along, and I'm going to increase speed. So if you're playing with me, I'm going to start at about 60 beats per minute, and I'm going to keep speeding up just till it starts to sound kind of cool. So let's do it without the metronome, okay? We don't have to be a slave to the metronome all the time. All right, it sounds a little cooler when we speed it up, right? Now, let's look at other interesting things we can do. What about if we take a bass drum note out? How would that sound? Let's go ahead and erase the bass note on 3, and now we have the bass note on just 1. What does that sound like?
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 1 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 and.
Okay, that sounded pretty interesting. What if we take the snare note on the and of 4 off? What does that sound like? And leave the bass drum note off. So we erase this one. So now, let me go ahead and give you an example of if you can say it, you can play it. So I know, without saying the hi-hat, it's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and ready and go and boo, bop, 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 do, da, 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 do, da, 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 do, da, 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 do, 2, ready, go. Now that's played really slow, but what would that sound like in real time? Because it doesn't sound that cool. And let's just mess around with it a little bit. What you'll hear is it kind of sounds like that cool late 1960s, 1970s West Coast surfer vibe, like when Endless Summer was coming out and stuff like that. And it kind of had that big kahuna, big wave feel. See, so something nice and small and seemingly not complex can actually sound really cool on the drum kit. So what we've dealt with now is the bass drum still just on 1 and 3, and we took it off of 3. So let's add it back on. And let's go ahead and take this snare note off the and of 2, so we're back to our original rock beat. Do, da, do, da, do, da, do, da. Now let's try and throw some notes instead of being on the beat, as they say, meaning directly related to one of the hi-hat or 8th note hits. What if we put one in between? Ooh, wouldn't that be crazy? So let's say we go put a beat right here, right smack in the middle of no man's land. What would that sound like? So let's take it really slow. Bass drum on 1, snare on 2, and then this is going to be after the and. Now we're going to have to talk about 16th notes. Let's see how this sounds.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2.
Okay, so I already know what you're saying because I'm thinking of it too. Hey, this beat is right down the center. It doesn't fall on 1, 2, 3, or 4, or any of the ands. Well, this is getting back to the second video, I believe, where we talked about 16th notes. That note actually falls on a 16th note. Hey, what's up guys? I just wanted to take a time out before we went way too far down the rabbit hole. That video is already about 10 minutes long. You get the point. There's plenty of places that you can drop snare notes, either on the downbeat, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, on the and of 1, 2, 3, 4. You can literally place it anywhere. Getting into 16th notes and getting more complex, that's for something further down the road. So what I'd like you to do is just write this out if you want to. If not, and you're just playing by ear, just stick with the bass drum on 1 and 3. Start with the snare on 2 and 4, and then just start adding it in various places. And you'll end up with some really cool beats. I'm going to go ahead and finish the video just by playing basic drum beat. I'm going to launch into some of the stuff that we learned in this video, and then maybe play some things that if you want to experiment with, you can. So let's check it out. So as you can see, the simple beat can go into a whole bunch of crazier stuff down the road. I want you to focus on the simple rock beat, adding the snare in here and there. I want you to try and understand this because you're going to see it again in the future. There's only so long that you can play the drums without seeing this at some point. Are there drummers that have made it throughout their entire career only playing by ear? Sure, but they're few and far between, and this can do nothing but help you. Other things that can help: hiring a drum teacher other than me, other than anything you see online. Playing with somebody one-on-one is the greatest challenge you're ever going to have because they're sitting right there watching you and you have to perform. So learn any way that you can. People learn different ways. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to see you next time where we're going to do the same thing we did on the hands today, but we're going to do it with the feet. If you have any questions, please ask them or leave a comment below. Keep drumming.